Okay, we're good to go.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Erin Stevens, the Chair of the Design Review Board. Welcome to the August 4th meeting of the City of Charleston's Design Review Board. Members of the board are Bill Eubanks, Adriana Carson, Ashley Jackrell, Lucas Boyd, and Ben Whitener. And is Stephanie coming or not? Or not? Okay, we may be joined by Stephanie Tillotson at some point, but we'll move forward without her since we have a quorum. Members of city staff are David Meeks and Brad Thomas, who are DRB staff, and Patrick Carlson, the city clerk. No board members are recused from any of the projects on the agenda, and no projects have been deferred. There was one public comment submitted for 1791 Hickory Knoll. Board members all got a copy of that comment, but it was focused specifically on traffic, which is not in our purview. Order of the meeting will be as follows. Staff will give a quick overview and introduction to each project. And then the project team will have the opportunity to make a presentation. Your time should be limited to 10 minutes. If you think you need more, we can grant it to you, but please request it ahead of time before you start your presentation so that we can document that properly. All presenters to clearly state your name for the record. And this is the time when anyone affiliated with the project, owners, designers, architects, landscape architects should speak. This will be followed by board questions to the applicant, and then there'll be an opportunity for the public to comment. Public comments will also be limited to 10 minutes, and anyone from the public must state their name for the record. The applicant does not get to respond to public comments. There'll be a time later when they can clarify anything that they'd like to. This will be followed by city staff recommendations, and then the applicant can respond or clarify to public comments and city staff comments with a 5-minute time limit. Then we move into board discussion, during which the applicant may no longer speak unless they are directly addressed by someone from the board. Will make a motion, continue discussion, and then vote. Just a quick reminder to turn off any mobile phones or other devices that will be making noise. And also just a reminder that comments from the public are to be limited to site design and architecture only. We do not have authority over zoning issues such as land use, building density, flooding, or traffic. So with that, we can get started with our first item. This is 1791 Hickory Knoll Way, requesting conceptual approval for the construction of 2 new shell buildings for office space.
Thank you. Just have a few context slides showing where the project is. If you direct your attention to the screen, the red thumbtack is where this is located, just off of Maybank Highway. Closer view. And this is at the intersection of Hickory Knoll Way and Maybank Highway. And then this is looking into the site. Off to the right is Hickory Knoll, straight ahead is Maybank Highway. And so the site is going to be off in this direction. And then again, this is looking down Hickory Knoll, and the project's going to be off to our left. And then this is looking east on Maybank Highway, and the site is off to our left. There's a good existing buffer of 75 feet, so a lot of these trees are going to be remaining. And then with that, applicant can step right up.
Yep. Thank you all. My name is Billy Bishop, architect with GBA. Appreciate your time today. Also joining me today is Thomas from Earth Source. So if you have any civil questions, we'd be happy to answer those as well. So jumping right into it. Thank you, David, for the introduction on that. If you could jump kind of 2 slides, the 02 would be in like keep going right there. So appreciate you giving me kind of the overall context. Those images that you showed are very similar to what we have here. You can see Hickory Knoll is kind of running diagonally north, and then Maybank is kind of running the other direction. We orient this a little bit better to help with that. You can go to the L100 sheet. Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry, kind of stuck right now. Let's see. Didn't hear a message. Here we go. Sorry about that.
Sure, thank you. So this is the proposed site plan that we have for the project. As you can see here, we have Hickory Knoll kind of on the right-hand side. Maybank to the south. On the north side of the site, we have a large wetlands area that is kind of cutting into the site. We are proposing to protect any of the grand trees that are on the site, which is kind of why this main path kind of meanders through the site. So we wanted to work around all the kind of existing vegetation that we have there as much as possible. We have the existing, as David said, 75-foot buffer along Maybank that we want to keep as unobstructed as possible, other than the inclusion of a monument sign along Maybank for the site. Like I said before, we have two buildings that are both 5,000 square feet each. They are going to be mirrored conditions of one another, but changing in color, so that way they still have some differentiation between the two of them. And then, of course, dealing with stormwater retention on the site, we have a combination of ponds, dry ponds, as well as some underground retention. You could go to the floor plan, which I think is right there. So both of the buildings will have very similar layouts. Currently, there's one tenant that's proposed for one of the buildings. Both buildings are laid out to have a max of 2 tenants per building. So currently, the one we're showing here is the building on the right, which is closest to Hickory Knoll. Carolina 1 will be the tenant for the corner, as well as then there'll be a future tenant on the other side. The plans mirror themselves on either side, so that you have these outdoor patio areas that will kind of face each other and kind of create more of a mixed use environment, keep it a little bit more lively. And then the architecture itself, you'll see there'll be 2 differentiations for the entrances, both in materiality and kind of form, to kind of create that identity in an entry. If you go to 13, which actually is labeled 9 on accident.
And so we have a different page.
That's right, yeah. This number, keep going. It's 10. There we go. So architecturally, we wanted to kind of work with Johns Island and keeping it more residential in scale, both in form as well as in height. We played around with materiality to differentiate the 2 entrances in each one of these, with brick identified in both of those, board and batten for the main siding on the building. That will be color changed per building, just to give kind of identity, like we're in the green building, we're in the blue building. Those colors, we haven't defined the exact color yet, but this is kind of the idea of that. And you'll see that in the rendering. Also with the entrances, we have kind of a warm wood element in the soffits, as well as kind of changing the storefront to a more of a champagne color instead of the standard anodized aluminum for the rest. Again, kind of adding a warming element to warm up the space and create that identity to that. Go to the next slide. So here's a rendering of how this might look. We have a canopy over the front. This entrance is actually set back a little bit with a canopy for stormwater, for like stormy weather. And just kind of creating those 2 kind of forms from that with those gabled ends. We have the whitewash brick here, and then kind of have this like addition that we have here, almost like a porch was infilled at some point to add to kind of break up the massing between the 2 entrances. Next slide. So this perspective shows kind of the facade facing towards Maybank and the outdoor patio area. Like I said before, these buildings will be mirroring one another. We also felt it was important on these corner buildings to create more natural light in there as well. So you can see there's we have a side with an access door, as well as that champagne storefront to create more natural lighting in the space. Next slide. So this is what the other mirrored image building might look like with the green accent. Then next slide. And then overall, this is how they will fit on the site. This is not taking the landscaping into account on this particular rendering, but just giving you overall massing and how they're set apart from one another and how it might look. With that, any questions?
Thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
How deep are your patios?
It's 12 feet, I think, that's what we're looking at. So we're keeping it pretty minimal. Again, we're really kind of pinched on this site with there's a large sycamore tree that's kind of smack dab in the middle. So the way the path kind of cuts in and working with stormwater, it's a pretty narrow patio. space. But the idea was to create some sort of retention wall that's here, whether it's actually a seated like this, or maybe you sit on, bring it down a little bit lower and sit on top of it. It was a way to kind of maximize the space by creating more seating without necessarily adding more furniture.
This is a wood frame building.
Correct.
Trusses. And 11.6 is the top plate height, right?
Yeah, if you go back to the elevations, that sounds about right. Yeah, so we've got like storefronts 10 foot high here, so yeah, it'd be around 11.6, 12.
I have a question about the site plan. I don't know if we can go back to that show the detention areas and the,
Yeah.
yes. So you're going to have a dry detention area in between the two buildings. And so then it's adjacent to the 75-foot buffer.
Correct.
Right?
Mhm.
So I don't see an access for, like the city, they require an access for maintenance access to the detention area in the back. But I also noticed that utilities, I think you have a service line, a sewer going from in the back of the
Oh,
building.
yes.
And it's on the edge of the buffer. So if you put a service line that is a 6-inch line, you will need to have some room, so I just didn't know like the buffer, you're going to show an easement on there. It's just something that maybe you need to look a little more closely about the utilities, how you're going to put a detention there and access and don't, disturb the 75-foot buffer. So
That's a great-
just an
great comment.
observation.
Yeah,
And can you point out the sycamore that you just mentioned?
right here. So there's several on the site. We have this one here. We have one towards the rear of the site. I think this is actually a live oak here. Hard to see it on the screen.
So how does the sycamore affect the size of the patios?
So it has to deal with, when we were locating this and the way that this drive cuts through here and the amount of retention we needed to hold on site, you can see how this kind of pinched it down. So we were playing around with that proportion. Certainly we could study enlarging that more if that's something you guys would like to see.
And then I have a question for the detention in the back next to the wetlands.
Mhm.
What is that line that is on the parking lot? Like, it's like a dark line that
This
goes,
right here.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the contour, that's a 22 contour, so it's just kind of showing the top bank of that pond.
okay.
Any other questions from the board for the applicant? Anyone from the public who would like to speak on this application? All right, just one person? Okay, great.
I'm sorry.
Oh, just a moment. I just want to make sure that we divide the time appropriately, but, okay. If you'd like to speak, just make sure you state your name clearly for the record.
I do it from here. I'm sorry, this is my first time ever coming. My
That's
name's
fine.
Jeremy Baker. I'm the HOA president for Barber Woods, which is the neighborhood at the back of Hickory and Oldway. It's our only entrance and exit out of our neighborhood. So I think probably the questions and concerns that we have, I don't know if you guys can answer from what you said at the beginning. Because our main concerns are, one, traffic, and two, stormwater. The main one being, it is just a 2-lane road. We don't even have paint stripes on there. The road is 24 feet wide. You guys are introducing 64 parking spaces into that parking lot, and it's commercial space. We only have 75 houses, so you're basically doubling the traffic coming in and out of that small road. And I was wondering if there was anything you guys had planned on doing to apply to that. Most traffic for those commercial development on Maybank right now have 3 lanes, so one going in, 2 going out, one to the left, one to the right. So we're just trying to figure out how we're gonna alleviate congestion in that area. And that's kind of it. Also, dealing with stormwater. You guys do have a lot of retention, obviously the underground retention as well. But I can see on the top of the plan where your overflow is gonna dump into that wetland area, which is part of your property, but then also dumps into our HOA property, which is our wetland area. And right now, I don't know if you guys know, but we're doing like almost a $5 million drainage project behind our neighborhood to kind of alleviate that flooding, and it seems like this is going to kind of be counterintuitive to that project, dump more water into our system, so just kind of wondering if there was any, strategy on the impact of that as well. So, again, traffic, it's gonna make it really hard for us to get in and out of there.
We understand your concerns. It's unfortunately, traffic and flooding are not part of this board's purview, but those things are addressed through the separate city process of TRC.
So my next question to that would be, what meeting would we have to attend in those situations?
And TRC meetings aren't open to the public.
They are open to the public, but they do not have public comment.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you can
They're
only
virtual
listen.
still, I
You
think,
can't,
too.
You
right,
can
they
leave.
are virtual.
As a neighborhood, we don't really have, we don't have a chance to kind of.
I can say part of the TRC, can I respond? Okay, as part of the TRC, they did require us to do a traffic study. We did do the traffic study based on that, and they did not have any recommendations for widening that based on the current traffic flow and the proposed use. And then as far as the stormwater goes, the stormwater system will be designed to slowly, over a period of time, I think it's 24 or 48 hours, will slowly, back into that wetlands area. So in theory, as we work through that design process, understanding the current amount of water that's in there, that should be designed as part of the process.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, that's everyone from the public. You can take a seat and city staff can do their recommendations.
Thank you. Staff observations, DRB staff had no meetings with this applicant prior to the submittal. Staff is supportive of the height, scale, mass of the building and the design direction, color and materials. There will be a strong landscape buffer of 75 feet along Maybank Highway. Staff comment number one, staff recommends pulling the building away from Hickory Knoll a little bit. Currently, the corner of the building looks to be just a few feet off the sidewalk of Hickory Knoll. Study increasing the space a few feet to allow for more landscape between the building and the sidewalk at the street of Hickory Knoll. Staff comment number two, even though there's a nice existing buffer along Maybank, study adding more landscape to wrap around this building corner closest to Hickory Knoll and extending some random landscape around the Maybank side of the building, as this area will be visible from Hickory Knoll Way. Staff comment three, the plant list has 52 boxwoods and 22 dwarf Yupon holly proposed. These two plants are very similar in appearance. Staff recommends increasing the Yupon holly some, but substituting a few more native type plants to replace the boxwoods. Number four, the detention area between the buildings is dry and currently is proposed to be all lawn grass with some rows of ornamental grasses at the perimeter. Staff would like to see, in addition to some lawn areas, the introduction of more water tolerant plants in the form of shrubs and trees. Consider a couple cypress trees, more loose looking plant groupings and less neat rows. Comment number six, staff recommends standing seam metal roof for the buildings. Staff comment number,
That was fine.
I'm sorry, five. That five was the metal roof. Number six, staff recommends adding some landscape shrubs or grasses on the Maybank side of both patios. And number seven, the signage will just need to be a separate review, but we do recommend conceptual approval with conditions noted.
Okay. Is there anything you want to clarify in staff's comments? Okay, great. We'll now move into board discussion.
It's nice simple building, and I think there is the you can see a really nice simple diagram being worked out here. Just long single story gable, two perpendicular gabled volumes. And I think there's a couple of things muddying that nice diagram a little bit. I think the first one is the little bump out that kind of accommodates the conference room. I don't know, I know that's a kind of a plan change. I don't know if that could be massaged out some way somehow. And then the other is the different articulations of the two feature gables. And I know that the idea was to kind of give each office suite its own identity a little bit. But I think it might be a little too far from my perspective anyways, in terms of what's being changed, like the overhang, the pitch, the recessed nature of the brick facade, the canopy. Maybe,
Materials.
huh?
Materials.
Well, I think it was the material palette. It's just because the other one's got the wood soffit too, I think. The storefront opening with, I think maybe a study and bringing them back more closely related could be beneficial. And then I feel like sound like a broken record with this comment, but if there's the opportunity to align this use,
I was gonna say the same thing on this.
then I encourage you to grab that opportunity. So the fishes can just turn the corner.
Yeah, I agree with the eaves on this one, definitely. The eaves and looks like a couple places have odd overhangs too, so definitely study the overhangs. The sort of the secondary entrance has it's like it's almost aligning with the perpendicular ridge, but feels like it wants to align. But I agree with what Lucas is saying about maybe the roof slopes are a little too far different. I do think if you're going to keep it that same form for the secondary, I would make the soffit or the fascia of the gable thicker. It seems really slender on the bump out in 3D when you look at it. And I agree that conference room, it seems kind of a afterthought piece that takes out on the primary entry piece. But I'm okay with the materials. I think honestly, if you don't make it similar to the Carolina one, I'd say, that the secondary tenant, get rid of the brick. I don't think it has to be brick. You've got so much glass. It can almost be a siding, something different. But if you maybe study it both ways and see which one.
Yeah, it seems to me like in this view, at least, the one on the left, the way the wall and the eaves are kind of extruded out from the building, it's almost like a more modernist approach, where the one on the right is very traditional. So it's kind of like mixed vocabularies.
Which is to say each one could work, whichever one, but maybe try making them the same and dialing back the differences. I'd say. But yeah, nice. It's a nice diagram. Just agree.
I agreed with the staff comment about the dry pond. I'd like to see, that's what the two patios are looking at. So I'd rather see that approach as more like a bioswale than just a depressed lawn area. Give them something to look at. I'd also like to see them explore making those patios a little bit deeper so that they function. 12 feet's really minimal to have any kind of tables and chairs and be able to move around them. Also, I did like the idea of lowering that wall to a seat wall height. It just seemed like a little heavy-handed if it's not sittable.
Also help with the fact that it's so narrow, because if it becomes a bench and is part of your furnishings.
Single loaded seating along that. I like that, it's brick, it's nice, I like that, it looks like an extension of the building.
Yeah, Make a motion for.
I was gonna piggyback on, but Bill, did you have any other landscape comments? Okay, I think that staff captured most of my concerns about the landscape plan. I do want to emphasize your comments is kind of buried under a lot of things about more loose, natural looking plant groupings and less neat rows. I think, you know, there's some things that I could get hung up on, but I know this is conceptual, so I don't want to get too hung up on species and stuff. We'll deal with that later, but I do think it is kind of lacking a landscape concept. Like it looks like it's just kind of a row of shrubs around the building footprint instead of really thinking about the setting, you know, where it is on Johns Island and what kind of that demands of the landscape. I think planting the pond will help with that. I think loosening up your plants some. I think changing your plant palette. You know, I appreciate staff's comments about that. I'd look at potentially introducing some larger evergreen shrubs, because right now you just have the boxwoods and the dwarfio which both say, you know, under 3 feet typically, and they do look a lot alike. And so just kind of loosening the whole palette and the plan up a lot, I think would really help kind of blend this project into the landscape in a more effective way. It feels a little bit like there's not a real strong landscape concept here. It's just kind of decoration. And I think there's an opportunity to improve upon that.
And I would like to add to maybe on the landscape plans to show more clear the utilities. Because, you know, you have to have an opening for maintenance of that. So you don't want to put, you know, a lot of landscape on top of that. You know, you have other utilities that, you know, you have to look at the easements and make sure that you got enough room for everything. So at least to show it on the plans.
We are often asking people to turn off the utilities in the landscape plan, just because it gets a little confusing when you see all the pipes, but maybe as a separate.
Okay. Yeah, it could be like maybe just to study that when they add more landscape,
Yeah.
that is not on top of, you know, the meters and, you know,
Yeah.
utility lines.
We ready? All good? I'd like to make a motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
Conceptual approval
Okay.
with staff comments 1 through 7. Board comments. I'll try to do the landscape architect one first. Bear with me. Let's see, to consider larger evergreen shrubs. Study the landscape concept overall. More natural groupings of plantings. Look at lowering the patio wall so that it can become a seawall. Explore options for a deeper patio. Let's see, Lucas. So we're going to study the form at the conference room.
The elimination of the.
Yep. Look at the alignment of eaves and overhangs. Study the articulation of both of the entrances to the individual tenant spaces. What else did we talk about?
With an emphasis on making them more similar.
The emphasis on making them more similar.
Second.
Wait, let me read through. Okay, so we have a motion for approval. For conceptual approval with staff comments 1 through 7 and board comments to consider larger evergreen shrubs, to study the landscape concept overall, to look into more natural groupings of plants, to lower the patio wall to become a seat wall, to explore options for deeper patios, to study the form and potential elimination of the bump out at the conference room, to study the alignment of eaves and overhangs, And then to study the articulation of the entrances with an emphasis on making them more similar. I get everything.
I think we have a second.
Okay, do we have a second? All right, we have a second. Any further discussion? All right, I'll call the roll. Adriana? Ashley?
Thanks for trying to save the trees, and yes.
Lucas?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
I'm also in favor, so motion carries. Thank you.
Thanks much.
Okay. Second item on our agenda tonight is 1513 Savannah Highway. Requesting conceptual approval for a renovation to an existing car dealership.
Thank you, Aaron. Just a few context slides before we start. If I could direct your attention to the screen, the red thumbtack is 1513 Savannah. This is a more of a historic building. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong project.
That's a historic building. Wow. Anything in the past 10 years.
1513 Savannah. Let me show you the location right now. This is the Porsche dealership and the Mercedes dealership that we just before. This is a closer view. This side of the building that my cursor is on is the Mercedes dealership that was recently finished. And then this is the one we're looking at now, which is existing Infinity dealership. Closer view. This is the Infinity, going to be converted to the Range Rover. And then looking into the site, in this view, the Mercedes is still under construction. And then this is the building that is being refaced now. And then this is looking back at the Infinity building and the Porsche building on the right. Yeah, you can step right up. Thank you, Ben.
My name is Ben Kaplowitz. I'm with GBA, designer and project. So thanks for the intro, David. I'll do a quick overview and then we can park up the renderings, talk about the differences in the proposed versus the existing. Absolutely go from there. So our project entails the full interior renovation and of this existing Infinity dealer, and it also involves a total recladding of the building. So the existing building footprint, maybe David, if you want to go to the architectural site plan, I know I provided some supplemental if you have. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, that should be totally good. So the existing building footprint, we're going to maintain as much as possible. The only new addition is this small, it's about 770 square feet. The new addition is step back from the facade of the building. Everywhere else, we're going to maintain all existing landscape elements as well as flat work wherever possible. Any plantings that we do have to remove that are damaged during construction, we anticipate potentially there's a small planter bed here at the entry facade. As we're reskinning and replacing the curtain wall system there, we anticipate that we'll have to try to salvage and replant a lot of those plants. And then here, there's a planter bed right where the new addition is going, and we're gonna basically move that planter bed, try to salvage as much as we can, and replace plantings of the kind wherever possible. I know there was also some comments that I'm sure we can address later about maybe substituting some of those plants that are existing, such as the Japanese yews, which are currently existing. We've already begun to engage with our landscape designer in this project to look for some native alternatives there. So we're definitely open to that. David, if you want to go to G03. It's one of the first ones.
Did you say G?
G, yeah, at the very beginning, so a couple to the left, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what's certain.
Oh, sorry.
Right. You want to dump maybe one more back? Yeah, perfect, thank you. We can like camp out here, so we don't have to jump back and forth. So we're proposing, like I said, the full renovation of the dealership, including the exterior skin and all glazing elements, the storefront system, all windows and doors. We're going to replace the existing building skin, which is there's some stone elements here that we're going to remove at the entry. This is all stucco, and then this glazed panel sail. As you can see at the facade, we're going to strip all of that away and replace with this ACM panel. It's going to be a charcoal finish, a matte finish.
We really like this panel because it's very consistent with the context. So we are actually connected, which we'll get to this connecting element later, but we're actually connected in the back via this office building to the Mercedes, which has a black panel that's very similar. So we're going to kind of echo those panels in proportion and material, but provide a lighter kind of complement to it. On the far side, we have the Porsche dealership, which is a light gray panel. So we kind of act as an aesthetic bridge between them. So what once were very disparate elements, we're going to try to kind of create a consistent aesthetic throughout. We're going to replace, like I mentioned, at the front facade, this curtain wall system with a slim packed and frameless impact glazing system. We're going to maintain the head height of that opening. We're actually throughout the entire project, we're trying to do as little damage as possible to all structural elements. So going to maintain the bones of the building and match all those existing openings where possible. Also at the front facade, obviously this is the facade that presents itself to the street. We have signage elements. Those signage elements kind of are broken into three currently. And that's because this was also a comment that staff provided, which was very helpful to kind of clarify. Land Rover is actually going through a rebrand and they're trying to kind of de-emphasize the Land Rover brand. That's kind of like a hidden parent company in a certain way. And they're presenting to the public as almost three independent brands. So they have the Range Rover, the Discovery, and the Defender. And that will kind of be, we're going to have a monument sign, of course, which will be permitted separately. That will not include Land Rover. It will only include these three different independent brands. So it's kind of like three within one. So that's kind of why it presents itself like that. Behind these signage elements, which make up about 3% of the facade, we have these ACM panels that are going to be fully integrated into the exterior building skin, but they're just going to be different in color or texture, trying to kind of create a distinct backdrop for each brand. I know that, again, one of the comments kind of spoke to maybe moving away from a kind of multicolored facade, which we really appreciate that thought as well. We'd really like to subtly draw a distinction between the brands. So maybe there's a way that we can study moving forward, a way to have a gradient that looks a little bit more uniform, maybe a little bit more understated, but still kind of differentiates between the three different brands that are represented at the dealership. So moving to the side elevations here, we're going to do as little, like I mentioned, we're going to do as little modification as possible, trying to match the existing openings. We are pulling back from some of this glazing at the showroom, which is this front area, because we're installing a tri-folding door that allows for vehicle access for the presentation materials or for the presentation vehicles that are going to exist in the showroom. All other window openings, door openings are going to be maintained, but replaced with a new storefront system that harmonizes with the color of the new metal panels. David, if you want to go to the next slide. Building. On this elevation, on the west elevation, you'll see our new addition. That is going to be kind of a vehicle showroom and a handoff area. It's kind of where they present the new vehicle to the purchaser. That is going to complement the front elevation. So we're going to use the same slim pack glazing system, frameless system, the same ACM metal panel cladding above, and the side of that glazing system. And it's going to kind of present the car to the street, but it's also stepped back from the street so as not to compete with the front facade, more as a complement. You see some of the signage elements on the side as well. We would want those to match the front facade. So if we explore different materials, maybe that have a subtle change in, like I mentioned, color or texture, maybe not quite as dramatic as that, but we want that to be consistent. So the clients kind of create an association with the Range Rover, Defender, Discovery. All other openings on that side are going to be maintained as possible. You do lose some of these punched openings here based on the new addition and because of kind of pragmatic considerations of the interior. But for the most part, we're not going to punch any new openings, maintain the structure as possible. And we have the new addition. And the last element of our project is, like I mentioned, that kind of connecting building. This is all offices. The front of it is kind of a service area that serves the Land Rover. We're maintaining these openings as well, again, trying to do as little damage as possible, but recladding the building to match the Land Rover, draw a direct connection there, and also it can be kind of a smooth, subtle transition between the black metal panel and the charcoal build about These openings are dimensions, you remain the same. We're aligning new storefront systems with what's there existing. We're creating a consistent parapet height that's more consistent again with the Land Rover. And that should, for the most part, be it. And I'd be happy to address any questions.
Great, thank you. Does the board have any questions for the applicant? Currently. All right, great.
Thanks.
Thank you. Is anyone from the public here to speak on this application? No? Okay. Staff recommendations.
Thank you. The existing building in this project was a reface approved by DRB in 2019. City staff had no meetings with this applicant prior to their submittal. The height, scale, and mass of the building will be about the same as what it is currently. Staff is okay with the design direction, but we do not support the multicolored front facade. The proposed demolition does not need DRB approval since the building is not over 50 years old. A staff comment number one, study the front facade concept showing the three colors. Staff comment number two, signage will be a separate review, but the facade signs as shown will need to be studied. Land Rover may be the only name permitted on the various models of what is offered. I do want to just add that the ordinance does say that only one facade sign is permitted. So we'll have to look into whether three names would be permitted at all. And the models and so forth. We'll need to look into that. It's really only logo and business name or really all that's permitted on a facade sign. Number three, find a substitute plant for the Japanese yew on the plant list, but we do recommend conceptual approval with the conditions noted.
Thank you. Anything you could respond to? Staff's comments.
Yeah, it's based on Land Rover's kind of standards. A lot of these are obviously driven like the signage, but we would of course be happy to kind of dig into that and see how we can represent the brands, but also meet the requirements.
Thank you. Okay, board discussion.
Well, first, I think it's a wonderful project. It's face value, very kind of simple renovation, right? But especially with your presentation and digging into it, there's a lot of very sophisticated, intricate design that's going on here. So really, really nice. But, so I really like the signage as is. The colors are really understated, and I know it's just a rendering. Would there be, if this was kind of the only thing that could consistently represent the brand, there's no way to see that as a single sign, right? It has to be part of the same.
I believe so.
Okay.
You know, and the colors, you know, that was
Even given
give or
the
take.
size, like considering the rest of the dealerships adjacent to with big giant signs.
Right.
Wow.
What's the percentage of coverage that they can have for signage?
Well, it's case by case. It depends on where it's located, and it can't take up more than 2/3 of the space we're located.
Okay.
Or 10% of the, can't be more than 10% of the overall facade.
I think he said that it was 3%, so maybe that's a trade-off that we could make, that if they're willing to go down to that low of a size, that we split it up into 3.
I just don't know if you can.
Yeah. And I know you even mentioned that here, that's kind of a separate review of the signage, so.
I just thought it, but it's a wonderful project.
The one thing that catches my eye is the, I know you're having to deal with the existing building and the existing structure. The columns being asymmetrical doesn't bother me that much, but I think really moving forward, you're gonna really have to look at how your lines, your reveal lines from your ACM panels that go to the metal soffit. Like, you're not showing any lines now, but there's gonna be lines. So where do they go back to? You don't show the columns in elevation where those lines relate. So I think, you know, when you're doing something that's detailed with, you know, refined materials, you're going to really need to study how's that regulating line from that vertical ACM translate under the soffit back to the column, because it's gonna be off of the column. So look at that and how that relationship might work. I don't know. Look at something else being there that helps capture that line back to the column. I don't know.
How far back is the column from the, it's a frameless system, right? Glass?
It is, yeah, it's like a foot back, it's relatively close, but it's not directly.
Yeah.
So,
The other comment was, the corner pieces of the, where the ACM returns, at the corners on the, this is the northwest, is it the northwest side? I believe it's north elevation. They look really narrow compared to what they're holding above proportionally. So, I mean, maybe that helps, you know, if you study that spacing at the corner, if you could enlarge that corner where you have the main entry doors, and on the other side, if you're able to enlarge that width, maybe that helps with some of that spacing.
yeah, that's a wonderful comment. We actually have since the submittal expanded that a little.
Oh,
bit.
well, there you go.
We have
Okay.
that.
Anyway, yeah, but
What do you say, which one?
look at the north elevation, just really. You're not touchscreen. What are you doing, man? You mad? Oh, you got a Mac, don't you? Of course you do. But yeah, otherwise, I mean, really, I agree with Lucas, the really nice materials. I like that, the glass, the frameless glass. But again, it's gonna be about details. I do agree with staff. I think the colors, I'm not agreeing with Lucas on that part. I think that having a simple color palette there would be really helpful on that main facade. I wouldn't mind it on the corner. I think you showed some colors on the corner. And maybe that's on the opposite corner too. Do what?
Well, what's on the corner should be what's represented above. Right?
I know, but that's a lot of color and on that main facade. And you know, I wouldn't mind a blast of, you know, just a little bit, you know, just the jewel, a piece of color, but that's a lot of color on that main facade. You know, where the rest of the building is that subtle gray. And if you only can have one name, I guess, I don't know. I mean, that's a challenge. You guys are gonna have to study that and come back. But yeah, I think the ACM alignment of the ACM panels, it's unfortunate it's existing openings because there are some really odd relationships with your existing window openings and how the ACM regulating lines work with those window openings. But I understand, and I think the elevations that's occurring on, like the south elevation, is, you know, not in public view, so it's not that big of a deal. But if you are able to work with that, so you don't have little 6-inch cut pieces of ACM panel, I think that help the aesthetic of the building. Anyway, that's it. Anybody else?
You would like to make a motion?
I'd make a motion for conceptual approval.
Do you want to see it back or do you final review by staff?
Final review by staff. You want to do that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
So skip preliminary.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I don't mind that.
So recommendation.
So we'll do a motion for preliminary approval. Staff comments,
Yeah, I'm sorry, you still need to do conceptual because it's.
conceptual and preliminary approval.
Well, the package isn't at a preliminary level.
Oh, that's why you can't do preliminary.
But can we
Well,
say
we
preliminary review
would-
by staff?
You can do conceptual approval with final review by staff.
Let's do that. Conceptual approval, final review by staff. Staff comments 1 through 3. And board comments to study the.
Make the colors more vibrant.
To study the, study the width of the corners on the north elevation. Study the soffit at the north elevation. What else did we talk about? Well, that's in the staff comments. I think that's it. Did you have anything else?
So we have a motion for conceptual approval with final review by staff. With staff comments 1 through 3. And then board comments to study the width of the corners on the north elevation. And then study the soffit at the north elevation. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Bill?
Yes.
Adriana, favor. Ashley? Yeah. I'm also in favor, so thank you.
Although I think Land Rover is making a big mistake from a marketing standpoint. That's not endorsed.
It's awesome. Fully comment. That's written in stone now. Land Rover is me.
Bill says. All right, so moving on to item number 3.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Have a good night. 1731 Savannah Highway, requesting partial demolition to an existing building over 50 years of age.
Thank you. This is the historic building.
Okay. And just a reminder to applicants as you're speaking and to board members, as part, we are only in this item considering the demolition, so we're not allowed to address the future plans for it. Well, we will later, but for this first item, we need to focus just on the demolition. We're not allowed to consider what's coming next.
Here, just a few concept slides to begin with. The red thumbtack is the location of 1731 Savannah. Closer view. This is next to a Bronco dealership that DRB approved last year or possibly 2 years ago. So this building right here is a unique stone building. And I'm trying to remember the age, but 1930s.
Mid-30s.
Thank you. And then a view into the site. This is the building in question. And again, a view into the site. And Bronco dealership to the west of the building. And you can step right up. Thank you.
My name is Bill Clark Langford. So this building was built early to mid-30s by the Harrison family. It's unique in that it has the stone exterior, stone facade. That was actually, the stone was brought down from Hendersonville, North Carolina, and used here. There's a couple other places in the area that have it. There's a street sign that has it, and then a couple other buildings. There was a sister building to this at 1739 Savannah Highway that was torn down in 2007. So this was brought before the board maybe a year ago or so, before I got involved for a full demo of the property. And so we're not doing any of that. So we're just going to talk about what's a demo. There's a couple slides that maybe have like pictures, might be easiest. And so the demo is basically a repair, might be the best way to say it. So probably the largest piece is there's a kind of that bottom right picture is a attached garage that was added after the 50s. Even in the 1970s, matter of fact, it might have the historical report is more like 1973 when it was added. We are not proposing to remove it, but it does have a flat roof that has essentially caved in. That garage door was actually put in without a header. It was just kind of cut open and put in. So we just want to remove the roof in order to replace it. We will replace it with something with a 112 pitch. The stone on that back section is not historic. It was a different facade. You can actually tell when you look at it closely. So we want to remove that. And we want to try to match the historic stone there. So we'll talk about what we'll do with it afterwards. So we want to remove the non-historic stone, remove non-historic windows, and then remove the roof on the back section. That's a non-historic section, but we are going to just be replacing. That might be I can't talk about anything else. That's it.
Great. Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant from the board?
Yes, I have a question. The low slope roof at the rear,
Yeah,
what's the current slope of that roof?
it's less than a half. I mean, it's, when you get upstairs and stand and look out the dormer, it's almost flat. And then about halfway through, it does a little dip and creates a little pool there.
This is, you can see the pool of water right here.
So is it? I mean, is that because the structure underneath is starting to fail, or is
Right.
there,
Yeah,
so the structure's failing
the
underneath,
structure's failing underneath.
but it's at least a half inch?
It's either half or less, but we didn't measure it 100%, but when we were looking at it, it appears to be flat to the eye.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
There's no reason to, I know you're not demolishing the whole thing back
Right,
there.
right.
But really, your only concern is that it's ponding in the back. There's not a larger concern with that roof.
It would just be the full structural concern of the roof. As it currently is flat, if you replace it flat again, will it be able to stay? And well, plenty of flat roofs have been done. We just almost felt like with it being a residential style of architecture, that a little bit of a pitch back there made more sense. So when we go back, we're not going to talk about what we're doing next week. But
I know.
currently I want to take,
It's hard, I know.
yeah, currently I do want to take off the existing, repair the framing, and do something with
But
it.
that's really the only, but that's really the only reason to demo that in the current situation is to be able to get to the roof below and fix the roofing, the roof structure.
Correct.
Okay.
It looks like that portion was an addition.
It was.
Right.
Okay, and
The-
what was
the-
the age of that?
Well, the pre 1973 overhead photos that we had did not have it. And
Okay,
the 1973 photo has lots of tree coverage in the back. And so the historical consultants believe it was added then, but they weren't sure.
Any other questions for the applicant? Great, thank you. Thanks, Steve. Anyone from the public here to speak on this? Yes, Donna, okay. Please state your name and you'll have up to 10 minutes to speak.
My name is Donna Jacobs and I live in Hermstown, Madam Chairman and members of the board. In August of 2022, I came before some of you, not some of you are new, and I told a story about this lovely stone home at 1731 Savannah Highway. Actually brought it with me in case anybody had any questions, and you denied the demolition request at all. In February of 2023, I returned to challenge the applicant's rebuttal and reminded you that the power to review demolition requests were created in the early 2000s by the demolition of the sister house at 1739 Savannah Highway, and asked you to create the bellwether moment when unique historic West African structures are respected, preserved, and allowed to tell their story. Once again, you denied the demolition request. Today, I'm here in support of the partial demolition of the addition that is modern to the building and not part of the original structure. Since the constant requests for improvements are next on the agenda, I feel I can say that we might be seeing creativity come to West Africa along the Savannah Highway so that these homes can be respected, preserved, and allowed to tell their stories. And I applaud the applicant for going the extra mile and bottom mile. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else here to speak on this application? Okay, city staff recommendation.
I'm gonna repeat some of the things Donna just stated, but the 1731 Savannah Highway was before the board first in August of 22, where the owner received a deferral for full demo. And the board was asking for more information. The applicant came back in February of 23, where they were denied full demo due to the unique character of the building. This is now a different applicant and they are back for a partial demo request and renovation to the existing building. Staff shared with the board the detailed information that was produced in the first demo request, detailing the ages of the original building versus the later additions in the rear. The applicants are maintaining the look of the original building. So we have one staff comment that staff is supportive of the partial demolition. and we recommend approval.
Anything you'd like to clarify? Great, thank you. All right, moving board discussion.
I've got a comment, but it's gonna come in the next, the
We are
next,
done with that conversation.
yeah, the next review, but yeah. So I'm okay with the repairs that you're doing, I think, especially with the additions to the historic building. And I think the material choice is sympathetic to that building and the building form. So for this application, I'm in favor.
Is that a motion?
I can, yeah, motion for partial demolition.
We have a second?
A second.
Okay, so we have a motion for partial demolition and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Okay, I'll call roll. Bill?
Yes.
Ashley? Yes.
Yes.
I'm also in favor. Thank you. Yes. All right, now we get to have the conversation. you've been waiting for. All right, the next item on our agenda is again 1731 Savannah Highway, requesting conceptual approval for the renovation of an existing building.
You can still write up. Let me know when you like, you can advance that back.
Yeah, so go ahead and just, you can pull forward a little bit, please. Site plan is not gonna change. The site plan is not gonna change. We do have a landscape plan. I don't know if you have it as part of this, but I had sent it to you. And the site plan, there's actually not gonna be a sign. This is gonna be a support structure for the Palmetto Bronco. So it is meant to stay, there you go. And hard to read in that, maybe y'all have a better copy of it. But there are addition of a few trees along here, and then the just more of a hedge feel on the front along the street. Maybe continue on to the elevations or the 3D or yeah. So maybe this might be the easiest way to see it, and we tried to just keep it very simple. But the stone needs to be cleaned up. The stone, it's actually a very nice stone. Once we kind of accepted what we had, it needs to be cleaned up. And once we do that, then, you know, along the flat roof, I'll go and talk about the flat roof. It is a commercial building, but it does have residential character and residential history. So keeping this flat just felt awkward. Now one long slope roof is maybe not my first choice either. But for the use and for what it is, I think it feels a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer than the flat roof. It's very clear the difference between the existing stone and the new stone on the rear piece. The new stone is definitely inferior. So we're recommending this is gonna be a vertical V-groove, like a Boral type product. All new windows, so none of the windows are historic. All new windows, Marvin Elevate style, residential style. Pulling in a little bit of the color palette of the Bronco building because we don't want to go full dark for everything, but we just are introducing a little bit of maybe the trim and the door and the shutters kind of look more like the mortar and then the siding on the back is just painted a little bit more of the stone color. Kind of just trying to balance what it is. The historic court was actually very interesting because the historic, they're like, it's unfortunate that this such cool building is located where it is. One of their recommendations is even to pick it up and move it somewhere else so they could be celebrated a little bit more as a residential structure. But we're gonna keep it like that. Want to try to tie it in the best we can, but yet still keep the historic nature of it. And could end up being a little jewel as you're driving down there, just see something interesting. So there's an existing carport here, metal carport. Of course, that'll be gone. And then hopefully what we're doing here just softens it a little bit. Thanks.
Any questions from the board?
I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Were there shutters ever on the existing building?
Not that we could tell, and that's something that's not 100% necessary. We're just going through again, trying to come up with ways to give it a little bit more character. But I couldn't find any old photos older than like 2007 for this building from the front, everything was from above. And then I don't remember what it was like in the nineties, I don't remember driving by it. And then the 1739 building did not have shutters either. So the shutters would be a non-historic addition if we put them on.
Okay, the windows at the rear of the house,
Right.
that you would be taking out and redoing, or putting in different size windows, that's part of the original building, right? Where you raise the roof of the
That's right,
roof?
that's right. The dormers, up in the dormers, the best I could tell from those overhead shots, you couldn't really tell whether that shed dormer was ever there. From the overhead, we looked real tight at every photo trying to understand that. The stone that's on the face of the dormer appears to be like a continuous of the wall below. The current assembly of the windows does not appear to be how it would have been then, because they're kind of awkward sizes. So we went ahead and took the liberty of sloping it and then just, this is not going to be habitable area anymore. It's not going to just be all opened up on the inside. So we did on the non-street side, put smaller windows there just to let light in. And it allows room for the sloped back piece. Correct. That's what you're talking about right there.
Yeah. I was also curious, how did you know that the stone came from Hendersonville?
That from the historic
Yeah.
consultant, yeah, historic.
That's awesome. How did you know?
Because I've interviewed the family.
That's awesome. Okay,
Yeah, the Harrison family.
that stuff's everywhere up there.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
man that actually built the house, I'm sorry to interrupt, the man that actually built the house was his daughter married the Harrison. And they convinced him to move from Hendersonville, and he brought.
Brought a little bit with him.
It's
It's awesome.
Donna, do you know if the shutters were original to the house?
I do not, I was trying to think of my mom, I have one weird angle of that house is old, and I don't remember shutters on the picture.
And the shutters are not necessary in my mind. It was an idea, but that is a flexible idea.
Any other questions from the board? Anyone from the public here to speak on this application? All right. Jacobs, state your name for the record again.
I did just want to speak to this one thing that did concern me, because there was a big production made. Once again, my name is Donna
Yes.
Jacobs, I live in Burns. When the first applicant came and wanted full demolition, they made a big deal about all the structural problems, which they naturally do. I never knew that it had a structural report to it, but my only concern would be if they start demoing for partial and then rebuilding, if there's anything that they find wonky, that they would do something to stabilize the building so it doesn't come back for full review. And I didn't know if that was in the board's purview to caveat that at all. But I just want to make sure that we don't get in there willy-nilly and then all of a sudden the building is down unnecessarily. But with that said, I have a feeling from listening to you that this will not be the case. And I do want to say that we're just very excited that this little building is being respected and seen for what it did contribute once to Savannah Highway, because those people were involved with the development of the whole neighborhood. And he was in construction. And what I see visually here is just delightful, and I want to thank them to do this, and I'll hope y'all, excuse me, support their concept approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Anyone else here to speak? Great. Staff recommendation?
The applicants are proposing a renovation to the existing building, which staff feels will improve the appearance to the structure. Staff comment 1, DRB has a policy that proposed shutters be operable. Staff comment number 2, it does not appear that the existing Palmetto Bronco sign was ever permitted. After the fact, permit may be acquired, but I understand that that's going to be removed. So that is a moot point. Number 3, DRB has a policy of asking for low screen walls for dealerships that display cars. In this case of an existing building, staff would be okay with some additional plantings with irrigation in the grass strip parallel to Savannah Highway in line with the monument sign. We do recommend conceptual approval with the conditions noted.
Thank you. Anything you'd like to respond to or clarify? Okay. Okay, moving forward discussion.
I do think it's a sympathetic renovation. And I applaud the paid attention to detail. I'll be honest, I was gonna say no to the raising the height of the row slope roof in the back. But after you said that addition looked like it was from the 70s and those windows, you couldn't tell if they were original or when they happened, I think, and Miss Jacobs didn't argue with that either, so I think it's okay, and especially it's on the south facade as well. I would like to see the shutters go away. I think that's something that's not really contextual with that area and that house, those buildings, so. But other than that, I would support conceptual approval.
I think, like you already said, there's a lot of things, really nice things going on here. And I guess I'm a little torn because, like you said, it's the back of the building, this barely historic addition. Since the roof is going, it's been approved for demolition. It seems like an opportunity to rethink that little volume as an addition, as how kind of the Charleston vernacular has developed this language of an addition, right? Whether it's a hyphen and a separate little volume or something. I think the long low slope shed roof with the effect on the dormer windows is modestly unfortunate. Again, it's the back of the building. It's not really compromising the overall architecture of things too much. But it does just seem like a bit of a missed opportunity to articulate that as almost its own little pavilion.
You could have done something pretty contemporary back there if you pulled it off the building.
Yeah.
Since it's not really viewed from the street, really.
But looking at the plan, that would be really tricky too. It's wide.
Yeah, super wide.
It's not like it's some itty bitty thing back there. So yeah, I guess I'm a little torn.
But the footprint is staying the same, right?
Right.
That to me, that makes it, okay. I would have been, if you would have come in and said, we're just gonna replace the structure of the existing and it's gonna have a new low slope membrane roof, no question it stays like it is. But since you're tearing out the roof structure and building new, that's where I was having issue in the first place.
Well, you're tearing, sorry, I know we're not.
No, go ahead.
Questions. But
It's more comments.
You're
The
the best.
roof is going, the cladding is going. What is the likelihood that lots of this wall frame stays?
The entire back wall will be redone because that garage door and window have no header to them.
Yeah.
So it's just a double plate that's holding the entire roof.
It's probably rotten.
Yeah, and so the builders are here and they've examined it. They feel like just the back wall needs to be redone and the roof structure, but the side walls could stay or be supported. We explored putting a gable on that back, just almost kind of taking the same gable and turning it, but that is so wide that it got taller than the main roof. And it was a very awkward connection with the low roof and the dormer. So we explored a lot of different things, and with the exception of, and then there's also a large tree back there, a very large tree. So it's not like we could change the footprint, because then we'd be getting into the tree and new foundation. And also everything we explored for other roofs just kind of said, put it back there and celebrate its stone.
Did you explore keeping low slope and putting a parapet on it?
I mean, we could bring a parapet up the sides if that's something that felt was necessary. I didn't know if that was going the right direction for this little cottage or not, you know?
Yeah, I'm torn, because again, it's
See where I was going with.
opportunity to create a little hyphen and maintain those dormer windows, but yeah, back of the building.
When we don't know the age of those
Yeah.
dormer windows, and they're not really, there's not much architectural significance to them.
That's right.
They're not really character defining windows. I'm okay with it.
And I don't believe it, your landscape architect isn't here tonight, right?
Who, what?
Landscape architect,
Yeah, Jody Parker's not.
not here. Okay, I didn't think so.
We can take any comments, Tom.
Yeah, well, I had some questions more than anything, because there were some conflicting labels on the plan and things that didn't make sense and line up, and something being called out as a hedge and a lawn, and I think it needs some serious cleanup before it comes back to us.
If I knows Jody, then that's okay.
I don't know if you had any further.
I agree
First
with
take.
eliminating the shutters. I mean, this is gonna be a commercial use. There's no point in trying to make a residential building look more residential by adding something that wasn't there originally. And also agree with the staff comment about not requiring the low wall out front, because I can't think of what a low wall there would be that wouldn't kind of detract from the building. So more planting.
More than what's being shown, just to be clear,
Yeah.
in this plan.
Kind of a sidebar, David, you mentioned that that is the rule for buildings that display cars for sale. Is that the case here, or is it just?
Not necessarily. I was just pointing out that that's kind of the typical policy for this strip.
Like to make a motion for conceptual approval with board comments 2 and 3.
Stop coming.
I mean, staff comments and board comments to study the landscaping. Right, landscaping.
Yeah.
Planting, rootings. What do you
Study
want to
the
say?
whole plan.
Study the whole plan. Get it right, Jody.
Okay. So we
Did you
have,
want, so, or do you want to specifically say eliminate the shutters or just not?
Yeah, I just didn't do staff comment, so,
Okay,
yeah, I guess board comment would be delete,
eliminate the shutters.
eliminate shutters.
Okay, so we have a motion for conceptual approval with staff comments 1, 2, and 3. Board comments to restudy the landscape plan and to eliminate the shutters as proposed. Is there a second?
second.
Okay. Adriana? Thank you. Ashley?
Yes.
Lucas?
Yes.
Also in favor, so motion carries. Thank you. Okay. The next item on our agenda is requesting preliminary approval for 2 new medical buildings located at 3955 and 3961 West Ashley Circle. Your introduction.
Just a few context slides to show where this project is, just off West Ashley Circle, with thumbtack on the map. Closer view with thumbtack, it's right in front of the. Seen this project before, and it has a conceptual approval already and for preliminary, the view into the site. And then the road straight ahead is to the right, straight ahead is going into Walnut. Site is straight ahead of here. Opportunity to step right up. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am Haley Rodrigue with the Middleton Group, a preliminary DRB review, and then our landscape architect Kevin, the 3 marks here as well. And just a quick overview to follow that up. This project includes the development of 2 new commercial shell buildings. One will be medical office use, but the other will be restaurant use. If you could flip to the next slide. So the first images are kind of what you just showed, just around the existing site at West Ashley Circle. The bottom half is just kind of showing Walmart behind us and other shopping centers. So lots of brick in the area, metal canopy, standing seam roofs, which we are using similar materials. Next slide, please. And then this is some more commercial and multifamily buildings in the area. So some more residential materials like board and batten, which we're also calling for. Next slide. So just a quick site overview. Building 1 is to Plan West, and that is the more medical office building. Building 2 is Plan East, that's the restaurant building. And then we have this large patio between the two that will mostly be used for outdoor seating for the bar and restaurant in Suite A, Building 2. But we've also added some paved like patio between Building 1 and West Ashley Circle, as well as a little outdoor area for Suite C of Building 1. And also new to our site plan, we're showing just a proposed monument sign location at the northwest corner of the site. Next slide, please. I'm just gonna run through some of our staff comments that we got during conceptual approval. So staff liked the seat walls that we show at our center patio, but it was asked that we work with Eric Schultz and zoning. The placement of these walls, it's around an existing tree. So we are respecting that existing tree in the patio, and we'll continue to work with Eric Schultz within TRC for this tree to remain. Yes, that's the one. Staff also asked that we consider adding an arbor to provide more shade for our outdoor patio. It was noted it could connect to Building 1 as shown in the previous rendering. We did incorporate a canopy attached to Building 1. It's at this is like a covered patio for Building 1. And then we also added a large covered canopy at Building 2 that'll mostly be used for covered outdoor seating at the restaurant there. And it's also an indoor-outdoor bar space. We've added roll-up doors there as well. We've also added a few more landscape beds in the patio with palm trees just to provide more shading. Staff also noted that our trash enclosure may need to grow larger if food service is incorporated on the site and will need to be screened. The trash enclosure shown currently is large enough to fit 2 dumpsters, but if needed, the owner will increase trash pickup. It'll also be made of the same brick veneer we're using on the buildings, as well as be screened as shown in our landscape drawings. Staff asked us to better define outdoor space at Building 1. We did end up adding this like paved area connecting Building 1 to West Ashley Circle. And there's some room for benches if they wish to add those. There was also an ask for the screen wall along West Ashley Circle to be taller than the seat walls for privacy and noise reduction. That would be this screen wall here, and this wall is 42 inches tall to allow for this. Where the building meets hardscape, it was also asked that we consider adding planting strips with low foundation plantings. We have updated the arrangement of hardscape and plantings, but we are attempting to keep tree wells that we're showing in front of the building. So this limits the space for foundation plantings and having an accessible route. The other comment was asking for screen walls between parking and the streets where possible. We did add a screen wall to Plan West. And then 3 additional comments we received. It was asked that we consider revising the buildings so they are not twins. The buildings are no longer identical, but they still speak the same language. Massing has changed as we've worked with tenants, and then we've also added a second gable roof to Building 2 that allows for both of the restaurants in that building to have a vaulted ceiling if they would like. Also the addition of the canopies at both buildings has just differentiated them as well. It was asked that we rotate Building 1 to be parallel with West Ashley Circle, which we have rotated it. I think before it was a bit more perpendicular to Building 2. And then the last comment was asking us to activate West Ashley Circle. That side of the building is not treated as the back of buildings. So we have added 2 additional entrances at Building 1 and just kind of this paved area and covered canopy to try to help activate the West Ashley Circle side. For Building 2, we have large storefront openings to try to help connect it visually, but we couldn't add an entrance due to grading differentials. So if you could go to the next slide, please. You can go one, oh yes. So this is the floor plan for building 1. It's the medical office building. You can just kind of better see this patio space, and this is the covered canopy area for this building. We can go to the next slide. Just kind of showing again this covered canopy. And all of our rooftop units will be top of the building. We'll just need to screen some of the ones that are lower parapet. Next slide. This is building 2, the restaurant building. Again, so this is the West Ashley side. We have these storefront openings, which we can look at in elevation, but couldn't quite add an entrance there. And this is our canopy area. If you go to the next slide, just kind of see it again there. It's pretty large. Oh, and we've also added the gable roof, the second gable roof at this building. Next slide. So the black and white top elevations are what we submitted at conceptual approval. And then the colored ones are what we're proposing now. So you can just kind of see where we've kind of added more materials and changed the form based on tenant requirements. Next slide. We can go to the next one. This is building 2. So just again, noting the second gabled roof and the covered canopy area with the roll-up doors up the indoor-outdoor bar. Next slide. And go one more. Our materials, we're going with more of like a lighter neutral palette. I have physical samples if you guys like to see them, but just a lighter brick. We're using stack bond brick in a few accent locations at punched openings. And we like that the stack bond would mimic this other accent material we're using at board and batten locations. It's just this fiber cement kind of horizontal tile material. And then also for our board and batten locations, we are showing the battens placed at more irregular randomly spaced intervals just to provide some interest. You go to the next slide.
And just a reminder, you have 2 minutes left.
Okay. So this is rendering looking at building 2, building 1 from West Ashley Circle. So we can kind of see those storefront openings, patio space in between. We go to the next slide. This is again, kind of on the West Ashley Circle side, looking at building 2, our patio space, just kind of noting the seat walls around that existing tree. The additional palm trees that we're showing to provide some shade. We're calling for string lights to be placed between them. Next slide. This is West Ashley Circle. Looking more at building 1, you can see the 2 additional entrances that we added to connect West Ashley Circle. You can't really see the paved area in this, but next, please. This is just building 1 looking from the parking lot, just to try to, it's hard to see in here, but the stack bond accent locations are above and below these punched openings. And this is kind of where this horizontal tile panel would be. It's also a bit hard to tell, but we do show the battens as being randomly spaced in the renderings and elevations. Just go through the next. We can go to the next one again. Maybe these got repeated. These are just bird's eye view on the West Ashley Circle side again. You can see more of the patio canopy at building 1. You can go next. This is building 1 from West Ashley Circle. Again, I guess more of the canopy, 2 entrances, this accent material. And we can go, I think the last one. That's just a bird's eye view looking from the parking lot at the 2 buildings. You can maybe see more of the larger canopy at building 2. And this screen wall that we had added to divide the parking from the existing street. That wraps up everything if you guys have questions.
Thank you. Questions from the board for the applicant?
Questions on that? First question is the mechanical screen on the roof. All I saw was it said wood slats. I guess, I mean, you're gonna see those in some places from your renderings, but all I saw was like a white color.
Yeah,
Was it?
that is true. We would paint it the same color as the board and got in.
So what?
No, so that's what I'm asking, like, is it, it's a white wood slat, like a 1x4 or 1x6 or something? The other question, I guess just, you know, we can get into that, but, the other question would be, the random spacing of battens. I'm just curious why is random spacing? Seems like you have very purposeful lines, and, you know, the soldier coursing and I'm just curious.
Yeah, I think originally it was a bit more, our punched openings as well were a bit more randomly placed, and there still are on building 2. I think it was really just to provide more interest, make it a bit more modern if using a residential material.
But it's only random below the gables, is that
Oh
right?
no, it is here too.
Oh, it is,
You
okay.
see in these though.
It is on the,
You might be able to see if you go to the elevations, they are placed.
that's what I was trying to say. Okay, yeah, it is. I got you. Okay. So well,
It's gonna be at some regular.
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Or
Yeah.
16.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
so you don't see seams and, yeah.
Yeah.
Just curious what was the design
Mhm.
impetus behind it?
Yeah, it was kind of just trying to like use a familiar material in a
Yeah, okay,
newer way, I guess, or a different way.
okay,
Really just provide interest.
got you. That's a good answer.
But we do have it, I mean, nothing is set in stone, but it is set up to where like we have 3 dimensions that we use. Like randomly, I guess, but it, like you said, like it has to be.
You'll make it dimension.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it is a nice way.
It
of-
looks random, but it's
Yeah.
planned. Yeah, you're not just gonna say throw some random.
no,
bags.
definitely not, yeah.
That's what we used to do with VCT on random.
Other questions? Any other questions from the board? Yeah.
Yeah, can we go back to the site plan? Yeah, so, I'm assuming that for drainage, can you tell me a little bit about drainage, how that site is taking care of drainage?
Yeah, that helped.
I'm not civil engineer, but can't speak to it. Come along with Remark Studio. I believe the drainage for the site is taken care of in an existing pond that's associated with the Walmart site. So we have information on the pond and our tying to it.
Okay,
So all this drainage is accounted for.
so well, I don't know if you know that, but this is an SPA area, special protection area, right? So that will have to go to the 2020, I guess, regulations for that with the existing pond. And then, so yeah, I was thinking that, also I have a question on the buildings. It's a dash line that is, in the front of the West Ashley Circle. Yeah, that is going through the building. What is that line?
It's a build to zone, this is a gathering place district. So the first dash line is an easement. I believe it's CWS, and so we're within that 0 to 5 foot build to zone for the gathering place district.
Okay, first I thought it was a building setback. No, it's like, they are encroaching on the building setback. That's good. And then I see that we have 2 entrances, right, on the private drive.
Here, yeah.
Yeah, so on the other side, it's hard for me to tell how many driveways, but what is that there? Different driveways with arrows?
So they're one way. This is the whole field of parking at Walmart.
Got it.
So,
Okay,
and then I believe there's a gas station here at this location.
okay. I would just, they didn't align with anything on the other side, so I just didn't know through traffic. Like, are you expecting anybody from Walmart to go to that or?
They were lining like here. That line going now.
Okay,
Yeah, because it's one way versus 2.
got it.
Again, I'm speaking a little bit for the civil engineer, who's not here, but.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other board questions? Okay, anyone from the public here to speak on this? No. Okay. I know, no one in the room, all right, David, staff recommendations?
It appears that most all the previous board staff comments have been addressed since the last meeting on March 3rd of 25. Staff can accept the applicant's explanation for not adding additional landscape along the building foundation at the patio. The building design has progressed nicely. Staff comment number 1, staff is supportive of the building colors and materials found on sheet A205. Number 2, the photometric plan is not in compliance and has several areas of the parking lot values that are higher than 5-foot candles. 5-foot candles is the max brightness permitted on the site. It also appears that some of the lights that were not included in some of the lights were not included in the photometric plan. For example, the lights at the front patio near West Ashley Circle in front of the building, in front of building A, and the tree uplights near West Ashley Circle, plus the patio lights. These are not included in the photometric plan. Please make sure that all the light graphic symbols shown on sheet L207 are clearly shown on the photometric plan. Staff number 3, staff is supportive of the landscape details and materials found on the landscape L sheets. And I'm adding a staff comment number 4. All traffic signs are to have a decorative post and not the standard U-channel post. It needs to be round or square decorative post. And staff recommends possibly bronze to match the downspout and so forth. But we do recommend preliminary approval with the conditions noted. Staff will need an updated photometric plan as soon as possible and final review by staff.
Okay, would the applicant like to respond to any staff comments or clarify anything? Very good. Okay, move into board discussion now.
I think it's an elegant solution to that area. I know the context of that area. I feel like this is a refined architectural statement. I like I wasn't here at the first review, but I like that idea that they're different but speaking the same language. I get that in how you're speaking with materials, and I like that the random spacing. I think that it's a contemporary way to do that. Which goes to how you're doing the windows and the break of from the board and batten to the soldier coursing, that kind of thing. I do think details though, like where the lights are when they hit a batten, really you're gonna need to think those out for final details to staff. So you don't have a batten that's cut 3/4 of the way and you got a light fixture in the middle of it. And similarly, like the mechanical screen, I didn't see anything here. It's just somewhere that it could break your whole concept if it's like you just got some treated lumber on the roof that's, maybe it's painted, but then the treated lumber seeps through, and it looks bad after the first year, right? So I mean, just those kind of things. Make sure you're keeping to that same rigor of design on the side that you're doing on the roof. But other than that, no, I think it's an elegant solution.
I think the improvements made, it was nice, conceptual too. And I think the improvements made have been all positive, and it really does finally balance residential materials and forms with a commercial setting. And that's not to harp on the board and batten, but that is what you're doing. You take a very common residential material and disassociate it from that kind of familiarity. I think the massing is really working, even with a small building. It's reading as a very plural massing with just a few thoughtful moves. So yeah, I think it's a strong project.
I agree. I think both architecture and landscape are good solutions. They'll fit in well at West Ashley Circle. I have a pet peeve. And this falls on your civil engineer, not on either one of you, but it's with handicap parking. And this is a pet peeve, because there's lazy design and there's good design. And doing the handicap parking is 999 meets all the regulations, but it's lazy. If you do that as 11.5.11, still adds up to 27 feet. But one, you don't have to do a sign that says one of them is van accessible. It takes away that requirement. And you don't have the problem of some doofus parking in the access aisle. So I would encourage y'all to make that change.
Motion, anyone?
Motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1 through 3, 4,
And they added a fourth, so.
4,
we'll
sorry,
Clarify.
1 through 4,
Mhm.
and board comments to study the handicap parking striping. Is that right?
Configuration.
And
They don't have to come back for final, do they?
no, final details to staff. And you guys heard the other comments that they don't need to be in. They don't need to be on record.
So we have a motion for preliminary approval with staff comments 1 through 3 on our sheet, and then the fourth comment to use decorative posts for signage. And then board comments to study the configuration of the handicap parking. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a second. Real, Adriana, favor. Ashley, yes. Lucas,
Yes.
also in favor, so motion carries. Thank you. All right. Thank you. Okay,
Don't look great. You don't look good.
all right, now we're getting close. Stay focused, we're getting close. Item 6 on the agenda is requesting an appeal to staff's decision to deny a revision of storage building design at conceptual level. Staff giving an introduction project overview for this.
Yes, I'm in the location of the project. This was a staff review because it's in a special jobs district, so that's why it didn't come to the board. This is the location off of Clements Ferry Road. Closer view. I'll just go through these, showing the location. There's also Payne Point Children's Academy here, which wasn't showing up in Google Maps yet, but I have some pictures of it later. This is a view into the site. It's not a very thick buffer, so the building will be visible. Another view into the site off to your left. This is the Payne Point Children's Academy to the to the east of the site. And then this is the building to the west of this site, proposal site. And with that, I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Thank you. I'm Neil Robinson. I'm an attorney with the Maynard Nixon Law Firm here in town. I represent the extra room storage group. Unfortunately, Mr. McElhaney was called out of town, so he asked me if I would come present this for him. I haven't been involved in the planning or any of the submittals, so you'll have to just bear with me that what you're going to hear is cutting to the chase, because I know I'm the only thing between you and dinner. So, it's my understanding this project was submitted several times and back and forth with staff, and it kind of boiled down to one issue. And the issue was how much glass is on the building. And I think finally they went from a 3-story to a 4-story with glazing all along the front, so that the entire.
Which is the other way around. Started as 4-story. And
it started as 4,
now it's
went to 3. But did it go back to 4?
No, it's currently 3.
Okay, the current application in front of you is 3. with both ends wrapped in glass, facing Plymouth Ferry Road. He found out that the 4-story with the extra glazing just wouldn't work for the project. It was too expensive to build. That extra glass is very expensive because you have to move the halls interior to be between the glass and the units instead of the units being right up against the wall of the facility. So the extra cost caused him to take off a story, which means he gave up about 42,000 square feet of storage space. And then he wrapped the ends, as you'll see here on these elevations, much as he had done in his initial application. And this really came about as a result of him learning that a competitive product down the street on Clements Ferry at I-526 had been approved with just the corners wrapped like this one. So he felt like that it was a bit arbitrary and unfair that he be required to put in all this additional glazing when the glazing will be up at the height where the buffer actually will hide it from Clements Ferry. And if you flip to the end of this and back it up about 6 slides, these are continued elevations and that show what the building would look like at 3 stories. And just a couple more. I want to get to where you see the buffer. There's the site that pretty much like the slide that he showed you at the beginning. And then go to the next one. It shows the building placed behind that buffer. And the next one, that shows the site cleared with the buffer between the building and Clements Ferry Road. So if the glazing were put in on that top floor, which is now the 3rd floor, which brings it down comparable to the buildings on either side of it, we think the glass is not necessary. You just won't see it from the road. And to give him an uncompetitive advantage by forcing him to put that in, we think is an unfair advantage. You'll go in another slide or two. This shows the other site. And you can see it's cleared all the way at the top, right there. So that all the traffic exiting 526 will see that building before they get to Clements Ferry Road. That shows inserting what that building looks like on the site, and yet it doesn't have the additional glazing. So we think that the fair thing to do would be to approve this project that is very comparable to that project, but yet is really much more hidden from view than the one that's been approved. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Does the board have any questions for the applicant?
Is the other project that you mentioned in the city of Charleston?
Yeah,
It is.
it was approved by the DRB staff. And when I go over staff comments, I'll be showing the images of their other submittals.
I might be reading the plan progression improperly, but you said that glazing the front would sacrifice storage units, right?
What does sacrifice storage units? It's just the cost of construction.
Gotcha.
Where you move the hallways away from the glass instead of having the interior hallways with the units up against the wall.
It looks like we still have the units away from the wall, then, right?
They do. They kept the hallways back off the facade as we.
But in theory, they could make the units bigger, I guess, and bring them to the opaque facade.
But this is their current submission.
And it's pulled off the wall, right?
That's my understanding.
Do either the applicant or staff have pictures of the nearby extra space facade as part of the package?
I was told we're not supposed to show that. Only the images they provided at the end here.
Was it looked at where
Staff provided this to Mr. McElhaney. That's the facade of the,
That's the one that's
Project.
plopped in the bird's eye.
That's here.
that one there, yes.
So their concept,
That is not a correct perspective there.
In the mountain.
David, did you do that?
no, the applicant provided these.
I got you.
They had a concept of, the building looks like shipping
It
containers on a
does
ship.
look like shipping containers, yeah.
And so because of that unique design, we allowed them to have less glass on the front.
And it's complete at the at that sort of, corner piece that's, the most visible at the,
Yeah, I mean,
There's
you want a closer look at what he brought?
no, it's okay. One question I did have, and I don't know if you know this or not, Neil, is, was it studied where,
They sit around.
did the architect study, not so much glass on the corners and, placing some glass in the field?
Well, to piggyback, is there an architect?
It says there's an architect.
Yeah.
Yes, the architect's out of town.
Okay.
I was
Virginia
asking here
Moore?
tonight, because I have no idea.
I
It
believe.
looked like to me that the wrapping, the way it was done, was about all you could do on the corners.
Well, I mean, it seems like a significant amount of glass on the corners. I was just wondering if they looked at taking some of that glass off and putting it, because it sounds like that's the concern, is that he's concerned with how much money he's
I'm
spending on.
sure my client would be willing to consider doing that.
And staff would be open to the board giving them. I know this is only an appeal, but if you have advice for them or the current design, you'll be fine with that as well.
I think that, well, this is,
Hear what's.
yeah, let's hear staff. I guess the question would be for the architect. Did you look at how you could break up that facade so it's not so monotonous?
Understood, okay.
And I think that's part of the problem that we're seeing.
I'm happy to pose that question to him, but I can't do it tonight.
Yeah.
But buffer or no buffer, really? I know that we can consider that buffer, that it is gonna screen the building,
We can't really though, right?
but we can.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't.
Because you don't know if way.
And I believe the angle they were showing from the other side of Clements Ferry was a little too far away. If you're in the lane closest to the
Right.
building, I think you'd still have views to the front facade.
We just can't count on it.
Yeah, a hurricane can.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. And go zero buffer.
Be pruned.
Or in the winter.
Break all that glass too.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so are we closing?
That was just
Since
questions.
now-
That was just more questions, yeah. Okay, don't believe there's anyone here from the public and we didn't receive any public comments, so we can move to staff recommendations or summary. I don't know, it gets us my recommendations, summary.
Some staff observations. The project is before the board for an appeal to staff's decision to deny revised plans for a storage building. Staff shared with the board a timeline of this project, starting with the first submittal in December of 2024. I will start going through some of these now. So the remaining of the slides are the progression of the design concepts for the storage building presented by city staff. So this was the very first submittal we received, an unofficial submittal just for our comments before they made an official submittal. This was in December of 2024, where the design was rejected by staff that had little fenestration and all EFS siding. We worked with the applicant to get to a place where staff could support a conceptual approval by asking them to move the hallways that were on the front facade, moving them back to allow for more windows on the front facade of the building. So I'm going to go through some of these slides. This was the very first concept that we had denied, unofficially denial. And I just show a few examples. I'm sorry, those images are the first submittal. And then in February of 25, this was their next rendition. And we were happy with the amount of glazing they were showing, but there were still some other odd things such as the cornice and so forth. So we deferred this and we said it's still just not quite there yet. So that was these images here. February. This is still February submittal. And then in April, they made this next submittal where they cleaned up the cornice and so forth and added, they still had the glazing. And so this is where we said we feel that we could support a conceptual approval. And they did make an official submittal and it was approved for conceptual. That's still these drawings here. And then after they got conceptual approval is when they came back and said, we want to reduce the building to 3 stories and we'd like to remove the glass in the front. And they made the submittal that you just saw. And we said, we just said, we felt like they were going back to the first concepts that we denied. And we said we couldn't support that.
Thank you. So I drove the site. There is a extra space storage down the road between this site and the one that was presented to us by the applicant.
I think that might be county. I could be wrong.
I didn't look up
Yeah.
whether it was or wasn't. It's a long brick facade with no fenestration, no breaks in.
Ooh.
It's just a brick wall.
Where's this
Um,
one? Sorry.
Between this site and 526. So
Mm.
basically it's in between the 2 sites that we've been talking about tonight. So I didn't look up whether that was county or city, but I mean, I'm not saying this is a fantastic design. Any of the versions that we've seen, I think that there could certainly be some improvement. At the same time, it does feel like maybe there could be some unequal assessment of expectations.
Yeah,
But if we don't know if it's a city project, I don't feel comfortable holding that as our bar for measuring against. That someone else approved a bad design.
Well, if it was in the county, nobody looked at the.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So without
Yeah,
knowing,
just make codes.
like it, I don't think that's the bar that we should be.
So I think first, it's easy to get hung up on fenestration, glass, more glass, less glass.
Yeah.
Window pattern. A blank facade can be interesting. A blank facade
Yeah.
can be designed well and
That to me feels like the bigger issue because the fenestration almost becomes like what we say about dormers, that they're non-functioning and they need to be removed, like they're there just as a way to break up the facade. And so, yes, I'm supporting what you're saying.
yeah, and I guess it's worth me at least clarifying what we're doing. We're if we approve the request to appeal staff's decision, are we granting conceptual approval to this?
Say that again.
If we approve the request to appeal staff's decision, are we approving conceptual design?
Yes. I was adding, I don't know if this is permitted, but I was adding, because this has been just a very long process and a lot of comments given to them. If you could give them comments to approve the project, I think we'd be open to that.
And this will, depending on our vote tonight, this remains at staff level review, correct?
Yeah.
Like it would not come back to the board
Correct.
either way. It's a staff level.
Can we make that a condition of the motion, that it come back to DRB for review?
Sure.
So my opinion is, it's a bad building. It's just, it's monotonous. And I don't think fenestration in and of itself cures that problem, but something needs to cure that problem. It's not a good building. It's not something that I want in my city.
Yes, the extra spaces in the city.
What's in the city?
the property I was talking about earlier with the long brick facade.
So that was a staff approval.
Was it reviewed by
No,
DRB?
I don't think we reviewed it unless it was reviewed before my time. That's why I'm saying I think it could be in county.
It's not.
I'm just trying to.
But
think
it
of-
might not have
They
gone
could have
before the
annexed.
review board, yeah.
'Cause a denial would mean, it would be a serious setback.
Not necessarily, because they could take it to the city, they could go to city council and override us.
It doesn't really improve the plan, which is the goal, right?
Well, I'm trying to consider what the best way is. Cause there's nothing inherently wrong with, a self-storage building there, right? It's near other.
It's
self-
allowed for
The
zoning.
use is
Yeah.
allowed,
It's
yeah,
allowed.
it's not the use
And
that's the
there's
problem.
nothing that's even Broad Street retail, right? And
Yeah.
so, or King Street retail, so. I'm trying to,
So is the glass windows that the issue?
no, I think the facade design is the issue.
Okay.
That's what I'm getting at. I don't think there's anything wrong with a 3-story self-storage building. The quote unquote height, scale and massing is technically fine, right?
Mhm.
But the architectural direction is not. It needs a whole rethink in terms of architectural design. Again, there is nothing saying that a relatively austere facade in terms of glass can't be interesting. Or it can't have some sort of architectural idea going on. Whether that's a material logic or patterning, whatever. Some reliefs created that wouldn't really affect the internal function and economic viability of the project. So I'm just trying to understand the best way logistically for us to allow the project to keep going. But not being okay with the design.
If we supported staff's recommendation or staff's denial, they could still come back with a new design to staff at any time.
Okay.
It would just have to be a new design.
Or back to the board if you
Right.
suggest it.
They could come back. We're not saying this project can't happen. We're just saying they would have to come back with a new design.
Okay.
I support staff's comment of the 417.25. You know, you guys accepted the 417.25. I'm fully behind that acceptance. It's a storage building, you know, honestly, it's probably has too much glass. But I would still support it because the facade, the main street facade is broken up. The regulating lines are there for a reason. It's, you know, here's the ribbon window, here's this piece is breaking up, here's the main entrance.
We couldn't accept, are you saying you would approve that?
Yeah, that's what staff approved that, and they didn't want to do it. But I would approve that front, but I think, you know, it's getting to where you're talking about. It's at least the street facade is broken up so that there's some articulation of window and solid to void. You know, it's probably too much, honestly. It looks like a lot at the end cap pieces.
Looks like an office building.
Well, I'm
It looks like too much, honest. Yeah, it's like, it's not as bad as not that word. It's not as much glass as the
You could
earlier.
reduce the glass on the ends
I think,
and still be okay.
in my opinion, the conversation needs to be less about glass,
Yeah.
whether there's glass or not, or how much glass. It's more about designing it in a
What are you
way that
doing
breaks
to the
up the
facade?
facade, that has a
Holistic design,
concept
facade
to it.
design.
Not just add this much square footage of
Yeah.
glass or not.
Agreed. I'd like to see it come back to DRB.
Me too.
I guess the question though, it doesn't really. This is supposed to be stuff that just is handled by staff, right? Because it's in that district where it's just handled by staff.
But by the appealing, they've kind of opened.
But it's become contentious.
And staff can recommend a project going to, we have the discretion to send.
And that's why, okay, I got you. So then now they would come back as a full conceptual preliminary back to the board.
If we denied it
If we said,
or supported staff.
if we support staff, that's how that would work.
Yes, and then you could support staff and say conceptual review by the board again.
So it's basically a deferral.
Kind of.
All right,
That's
so-
what I was gonna suggest.
Yes.
So let's make a motion for a deferral.
Yeah.
I don't even know if we need to make staff comments and board comments. You heard the comments, correct?
Yes, sir. Is it a deferral or an upholding of?
It'd be a deferral, it'd be an,
Well, but if
I
we,
don't think necessarily, but
deferral.
it's basically gonna come back to us as a,
I
concept. It's
don't
not a
think it's a
denial.
deferral.
Deny.
Yeah, I think.
I
we
think
just
we're,
skipped
we're
the-
denying the application,
No, because high scale and mass are okay, right?
No, but
but architectural
logistically,
direction is not.
logistically, if anything, we're
supporting.
not supporting staff. We're saying it's not a denial. We actually prefer deferring it, but it comes back to.
That's right.
What's on the table right now is staff has denied
I
it,
think that.
Yeah.
and that's what they're appealing.
But if we defer it, then it's just gonna come back to us as the same
It's conceptual.
request.
You could
Well,
approve
we
it,
c- we can
subject
have
to coming back
comments.
to the
We can-
plan you approve.
That's, so what,
Approve the appeal, subject to the applicant bringing back a plan consistent with your comments.
That's what I'm saying. See, you're.
So you get another
it's
whack
basically
at
the
it.
same thing.
No,
But to do that, you have to grant his approval. But if you deny it, he's got to start all over. This way he can take.
No, I don't
We
think
gotta
it's a
turn it
denial.
over Anyway.
I
It's
think,
not a complete denial, because
No.
height scale mass are okay. Right?
Right.
Right.
And that's what we would typically be looking at
Yeah.
early in a
I think
project.
it'd be helpful to give them.
So I think you are right, a motion to defer, but conceptual brought back to
to the
DRB.
board.
Okay, motion to defer.
Okay.
I mean, I guess we could do board comments to, you know, study the architecture. Help.
So,
Right,
but
break up.
our,
Deferring staff's.
Right, 'cause
decision,
we're-
like,
what-
it has to come back to staff.
what we're voting on is the appeal.
I think we
Not-
are.
Just the appeal.
It's,
So
we're not treating it like it is a concept.
we're either
of
gonna
us.
deny staff what staff came to the conclusion of, or we're gonna agree with.
Exactly. We're
the
approving
owner.
the appeal.
We're either approving the appeal or we're supporting staff's denial.
I
We
think
could
we
approve the
have to
appeal with
deny
that.
the appeal and require conceptual review by DRB.
Yeah, we're approving the appeal with those conditions.
But one thing and I don't know the like logistics of this.
We can't approve the
If,
appeal though.
if we're denying the appeal
With conditions.
and we are saying that whatever's proposed comes back to DRB, does that mean if they say, never mind, we're not doing this, whatever's proposed for the site indefinitely would have to come back to DRB? Or is it like same owner or same use? Like, how do we define
That-
I think
that?
it's tied to the application though.
What's that?
If they were to
This
submit a completely different
Yeah.
application, then they start over in staff review.
Correct.
That's why
That's, yeah.
my gut was saying that although it sounds bad, like we're in somehow not in sync with staff, we're on the same page in terms of design direction. But I think the best logistical path forward is to approve the appeal with some heavy duty comments and make it very clear that from an architectural perspective, there is nothing that's acceptable about what was presented beyond height, scale, and mass.
But,
Right.
I guess if we approve the appeal,
And
though,
then it has to.
but if we approve the appeal,
then they're okay with their original design.
I think you
No,
have
that's
to
No,
deny
the
the appeal.
condition would be that they have to restudy the architectural direction.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they're in theory getting their conceptual approval, but not really, because they have to come
Yeah.
back.
They're having to come back. We're forcing them to come.
Conceptual, not.
Okay, let's do that. Good, no.
All right, now that we're on.
We
the
got an
same page.
attorney in here. Who can help us with this? You understand what we're trying to get to, right?
Grant the appeal so it keeps it alive.
That's right.
Start over, but the condition is they have to come back with a completely new design.
That's right.
in front of this building.
Yes,
Height, scale, and mass are okay.
that's right.
But they're gonna have to come through at conceptual.
They're gonna have to come to conceptual and preliminary like other DRB projects
Right.
do.
Instead of being handled at staff level because it's.
All right, so make a motion to approve the bill with board comments. All right, now we can go. So it's gotta, the application has to come back to the full board
Mhm.
for conceptual and preliminary approval.
And with board comment to study architectural.
With board comment to study architectural direction.
So conceptual and preliminary or just conceptual?
I'd say conceptual and preliminary.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Any further comments? Because we have given them comments over. and over
Architectural
and over.
direction, so, man,
I would say first and foremost, don't, rely heavily, so heavily on one architectural device, that being the window glazing, to achieve a holistic facade design. There's plenty of other techniques out there. Study material, different materials, material transitions, and material patterning. Restudy the parapet configuration. I don't think that's doing any favors for the facade at the stage. And study things like modest facade reliefs. The facade, you have a 5-foot hallway behind there, presumably 5 foot. There is some opportunity for deep relief beyond just that.
Yeah.
Some materials can offer, like actual articulation of the building shape. And honestly, the colors aren't helping.
But the architect needs to look at this stuff. The architect needs to be involved in deciding these things.
I'd go so far as
Not
to
designing it.
add a comment that the architect should present.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it should be here.
Great idea.
Well, they could.
And I should have asked this before and I can't even remember, as far as like site plan, landscape plan goes. Because we were so focused on the architecture.
Same with us. I mean, the landscape plan could use a lot of work, but another good reason for it to come back. We didn't give them a ton of landscape comments other than adding to the buffer.
If I recall, it needs a lot of work.
I mean, I'd be okay with less glass at the corners if you.
We're not designing
You know what I'm saying? I mean, but there's a lot of things you could do to make it so it's not just a 3-story.
On the bottom line is we just they've got to do something to relieve the monotony of the building.
I agree.
Yeah.
It's not just glass.
David, does that provide any new okay.
Good job, Lucas.
Okay, let's see if I got what I got. So we have a motion to support the applicant's appeal with the conditions that the applicant has to come back to the full board for a full conceptual and preliminary review. And then board, do we want all these board comments, I guess, to be part of this motion too? Okay, so board comments to your first comment was long and rambling, but I'll
We started.
Can we just say restudy architectural?
restudy the architectural direction.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, architectural direction is denied.
Okay, architectural direction is denied.
And the architect can watch this.
Yes.
Yeah, you can watch.
Uh,
About required.
Additional comments were to consider other ways to break up the monotony of the building facade. Don't rely on fenestration alone. To restudy the parapet configuration. To consider modest design relief and building articulation as a way to break up the facade. To restudy the colors and materials proposed. Can we make it a condition that the architect presents? I know we said that. I don't know if that's something we can, I don't think we can require that, yeah. And then
Helpful for the applicant.
to restudy the landscape plan. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Call roll. Adriana? Yes. Ashley? Yes. Ben?
Yes.
I'm also in favor.
Yes. I made the motion, but say yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Lucas made the motion. I'm sorry.
Sorry, just say yes. That's in favor.
Well, you had a lot of the comments. so
Yeah, that's how we roll.
A team effort around
That's
here.
how we roll, baby.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Ben made the motion. I'm sorry, I had that backwards, and Bill seconded it.
And he owes you after this.
Well, you know, the fact that he paid me to come here is proof of how bad he wants the project.
We have one more item on our agenda.
Nice to see a board work like it's supposed to. Thank you.
I'll move for the approval of the minutes from the July 7th meeting.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, Bill,
Yes.
Lucas?
Yes, I say it.
Yes, in favor.
I'm also in favor, thank you. All right.
Before we